and we do not have a public forum.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead and move to approval of staff approvals. And I know that you want to read them out.
Yes, so if we could do the motion
Okay,
and the vote, and then we'll just read through them real quick for any abstentions.
okay, move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And then you want us to hold now or go ahead and?
Go ahead and do the vote, and then we'll
Okay.
go through.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. And we'll wait for you, Kimberly, when you take your time.
All right, and these do start on page 8 if anybody wants to follow along. But if you are abstaining, please let me know. So 1115 to 1117 Highland Street, 980 Neal Avenue, 968 Harrison Avenue, 958 Delaware Avenue, 818 to 820 Park Street, 1149 Neal Avenue, 913 Neal Avenue, 1046 Neal Avenue, 1142 Neal Avenue, 231 West Hubbard Avenue, 762 Neal Avenue, and 615 North High Street.
Okay. So move to review of the minutes. So a motion to approve the minutes from October 13th, last month. Is there a motion or any discussion?
Motion to approve the minutes from the October Victorian Village Commission.
Is there a second? Go ahead and go. Any discussion at all? Go ahead and cast a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Turn it over to you, Kim.
Okay,
Thank you.
we are starting with application number 2. This is VV-21-03-010E, 1135 Neal Avenue. This application is to construct a 2.5-story brick duplex and to construct a 2.5-story 3-car garage, remove the existing trees and landscape in front and backyard to include various planting and trees. The rear yard will have pavers behind the house and the carriage house. I've included the minutes from the October hearing. We've seen this a number of months before. Commissioners at the business meeting requested cut product sheets for the windows and landscaping papers. It was noted that there are window wells proposed on the basement, and commissioners were worried that these would impact the landscaping papers and encroach on the setbacks. The garage is deeper than the neighboring structures. Staff is posing the question, is this okay? The applicant has submitted an updated site plan where the existing wrought iron fence in front is going to be placed. They have also submitted cut sheets for the windows and updated the shingles. Staff recommends approval of the application with any modifications and or clarifications made by the commission. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.12, the standards for new construction, and the Victorian Village guidelines on new construction. And I will note we do have at least one speaker for this.
Could you guys go ahead and state your name, get you sworn in?
Bradley Blumenscheid.
Dan Perlman.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead, and do you have anything to add to the presentation today?
Yes, so I think it's best for this application to be broken down into 3 parts. The main house, carriage house, and landscaping. The main house, as Kim stated, we provided materials, physical materials over there, as well as cut sheets. Most of the materials are on the pre-approved list. Things that aren't on the pre-approved list are the physical materials there. Last month, Commissioner Skinner asked that we look into having the front porch flooring on the first floor into wood. Fiddled around with that design for a little bit, and it just didn't didn't really quite look right, and the owners didn't really care for it either, so we wanted to keep it with concrete, and we looked at some of the neighboring structures, and it's about a 50-50 mix between wood, concrete, front porches. Another concern from last month was the sun porch. One of the neighbors that commented about towels or other things being on the sun porch. We looked at the neighborhood and there's actually 6 to 8 sun porches within a few blocks. And we looked up the Secretary of Interior's guidelines as far as the historic building, which had a sun porch. And it says that because that was already there before, it's encouraged to also include that in the new design. Another comment from last month from the commission was the rear porches. So they're only 4 feet deep. They're really only intended to enter the back of the main house and provide covering if it's raining. There's really not any room for a grill or anything like that, so it's not really considered a deck. Moving on to the landscaping, the neighbor to the south had a comment about the concrete sidewalks along the side of the building. And I actually thought that was a great comment. So we removed the concrete solid sidewalks and put in our concrete pavers, which have grass spacing between them. So water can be absorbed into the earth instead of shedding onto his property. The comment about the egress window. As far as setbacks are concerned, egress windows don't qualify within that setback requirement. Only the building footprint does. The existing trees, commission asked us to locate where those are along the north property line. We didn't get an exact survey, so we kind of eyeballed exactly where they're going to go. Pretty close to where they exist, are right on the property line. On the site plan, I have noted which trees we're removing and which one we're going to be able to keep. And the Arbor report says that 3 of them are in pretty bad shape anyway, so they should come down. I've already mentioned the iron railing, so then we can move on to the carriage house. Commission and the neighbors have many times stated they're concerned about the height of the carriage house. So what we did is we removed the 3rd floor and everything on the 2nd floor, redesigned the fenestration to be more cottage-like. Mr. Hissom, that was one of his suggestions to make it fit better within the context. We redesigned the garage doors. Actually, the garage doors we're proposing are identical to the garage doors that are 2 doors down on that garage. So the carriage house height was reduced by 4 feet. We didn't want to remove additional programs, so it's still a 2-bed. So we did have to deepen it a little bit, but we did talk to Jamie Goodman in the Historic Resources Department, and he felt that making it a little deeper was appropriate. That's all that we have.
So now we hear from neighbors.
Yes. So I have one speaker, which is Andy Gardner. So we'll get Andy sworn in, and then I will start our timer.
Okay. Could you state your name, sir?
Andy Gardner.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Once again, I appreciate your time. I apologize that I don't have a lot of new thoughts to bring to the table. We've been at this many different months. However, based on the last meeting, it appeared that Mr. Navarro and the architect feel that this is a negotiation. They said they conceded a number of changes, and I felt kind of implied that this commission should also consider that. This process has taken a lot of time for everyone. This process is about building an architecturally appropriate house and carriage house on Neal Avenue in Victorian Village. That leads me to the carriage house. every meeting, we've discussed that the massing is too big. So this last month, they have removed the massing up, but have added it to the back of the property. So instead of being 24 feet, 8 inches deep, it's now 30. That still equates to 2,100 square feet if you put, say, the garage and the living space. All this is in an effort to get 2 bedrooms in the carriage house. I feel that no matter what is done, the massing will still be too large by trying to fit 2 bedrooms into the carriage house. So no matter what, architecturally too, I don't believe that it'll look appropriate to the Victorian village with 2 bedrooms. Besides that, they currently, if everything goes as proposed, in the duplex have 4 bedrooms plus an additional 5th potential for the basement on both sides. So if you took that with a 1-bedroom carriage house, that's 11 rentable rooms. And if they get the 2nd bedroom, that's 12. I just think they're really pushing how many units they can get into this space. Lastly, tonight, I'm not in favor of the access to the 2nd floor on the sun porch. Just don't think it's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
That's the only speaker that I have for 11:35 p.m.
So open it up for discussion amongst the commissioners. So in a very similar way as kind of what was presented to us, is it beneficial just to go ahead and keep the ABC approach where the main home, it will be A, the carriage house will be B, and then we can talk about landscaping as C. So I think that was an excellent presentation in terms of a recap of maybe some of the comments that were offered for pretty much every one of the items. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with any comments related to A, which is the main home itself.
So do we want to start off with the sun porch? Because I know that's come out in a couple of comments before. Or do we have any comments about, general massing, demonstration?
We can start definitely with the sun porch from that perspective. That was one of the items that was kind of talked about. So yeah, that's a great suggestion, Kimberly. Sun porch in terms of access to the sun porch, access or no access, and some of the concerns that have been raised. Any thoughts?
I was just gonna say, I've been also trying to pay specific attention to that in the number of houses that have them. It's more than just one. So I think that's our challenge. It's besides the concern of the way it's treated by a tenant. I guess I'm a little challenged to determine what would be inappropriate about it in terms of the aesthetic. And I would argue that if you're going to have porch, I'd much rather see it be a functional porch instead of a nod to an element that is unusable.
I agree. Yeah.
I know you guys have kind of worked to get the scale of the railing down, and it per the elevation seems appropriate in my mind in terms of the passing of it. Appreciate the detailing. I think also our vantage point from ground level looking at it also kind of diminishes it in a degree too. So I personally don't have any issues with the porch.
Makes sense. So, I mean, understandable. The interesting thing is, for me is, the concern has been raised in as far as how that it gets used. And so unfortunately, it's hard to kind of govern its use, from that perspective. So I have a little bit of concerns given that, the families are that are going to be, utilizing this because of the number of bedrooms, et cetera. It's like, it's hard to understand what that demographic and that use is going to be that would say, the use is going to be appropriate. We're not going to have the coolers and all of those items. The interesting thing that kind of helps a little bit is in order to gain access to it, you have to go through a bedroom. So it's not like a common area. So that starts to help some of those concerns. So it's not a common area so the hope is that, and I think that's why the team is kind of pushing towards, is there an amenity? Is there a way to preserve the backyard? Because that's where we want that use to take place. And not necessarily take place on the front. So I think that's the challenge, and we can kind of get to that when we talk about site plan. But for me, I'm more interested in how do we deter that from happening on the front when we have this strong amenity that would typically occur on the back for a single family home. I think that's going to be the challenge. So.
And that's an excellent point in terms of the single family versus a multifamily. I guess not something I necessarily paid as close attention to is how many of those examples are actually on single family homes versus total properties or duplexes.
And I also think we have to start thinking about this differently post-pandemic, because if I have two people renting a house, that's an office and a bedroom, an office and a bedroom versus bedrooms. And if I'm correct, do we or do we not have laws about multi-short-term rentals in the short north in certain areas?
We do have recent laws that were enacted, but if any of you are like me and you live near one, I'll speak for itself. And I guess the segue, I agree with the comments of Mr. Conyer that I'm not a fan of the sun porches on the front for the reasons that have been stated by the property owners, or several property owners over that several weeks, or several months now at this point in time. Another question that I have is, what is the property owner's intended use of this property? That
Condos.
that's what they do intend for them to become. They're going to be sold.
That's what they told me, it's condos.
Okay. So there'll be two separate condominiums.
3 total, yes.
The carriage house will be the third separate. Right?
We want to go ahead and skip now to maybe the front porch. That was an element that was highlighted as well, if I'm not mistaken. That would be the front porch. I think it was its materiality at the base predominantly. I don't know if it was more about proportion or anything of that nature. I think it was more about now that, the main structure is brick, what would be the most appropriate, condition for the base condition, if I remember correctly. Okay, thank you, sir.
And I think that was a point I brought up last month, just kind of asking the question of appropriateness of material there, and I appreciate the commentary. And I agree that there are examples of both, not only district building.
For me, I kind of felt the same from that perspective. It took a little bit of so interesting enough, in new construction is quite different than the old construction from that perspective. So it's really hard at times to achieve the aesthetic and the sense of craft with new construction. And so looking at the front porch, not necessarily as only wood or only this material, is having an alternate material instead of brick or brick veneer or a veneer or some other stone. It allows it to serve as a mask to the foundation that's really, really prevalent on this particular project, just given the scale and what you've articulated. So looking at a wood base would actually start to assist in masking that it would be a new build, and it kind of further gives it an opportunity of integrating into that kind of streetscape. So that's why I was when Tim brought that up, it just seemed like that was, something that was worth exploring, and not necessarily, just as a balancing it, is it appropriate, but how can we further integrate this project into the charm that it's integrating in? So I think that that's something that still needs to be pursued. That's just my thought.
And on that note, you mentioned kind of exploring that as an option. What were the challenges or hurdles that kind of led you to maintain the concrete?
Well, based on the height of the porch base, and we tried to align it closely with the neighboring. The way that the skirting worked, it just looked very squat. It looked like it was being squished by the framing itself and the trim board that we put on. It just looked funny, for lack of a better word.
So really, the profile depth that is being required by that material is.
Yeah, it looked like it was being squished.
Any other thoughts on the porch? Okay. So those were the two main items. We'll go back to the rear porch. I think that the gentleman had touched on, possibly a comment about that the rear porch was deck-like. I think that was only in regards to possibly the notion about prefab railings or anything like that. So I think that the composition is kind of thinking about it last time, wood, simple stairs, concrete stairs, it seemed like all of that seemed appropriate. So is that an accurate statement amongst the commissioners that are here, if you guys recall? So are there any comments or needs to look at the porch, the rear porch? Okay. And then the last one is the egress windows. I think that a presenter just, mentioned an understanding of the setbacks and such, and are there any additional concerns related to that? Oh, okay. I think that was all the items that I tried to bubble real quick. So those are the highlights. We'll go ahead and switch to the carriage house. First one is overall massing, because I think that was generally, generally the topic of discussion last time was ridge height and overall massing in terms of this alleyscape and just in general itself. So, so any thoughts on what's been proposed as a result of challenging, making this thing a little smaller?
I think we're challenged in that area just because what's happening in the neighborhood. You saw where that bump out happened on 2 of the projects that we're seeing. So it's trade-off. Do I want yard or do I want building? I think they've come a long way with the carriage house actually, compared to what was first presented.
And I feel like when you look at the elevational massing, it's much more appropriate seen previously. I suppose maybe the bigger question here is when you turn the corner and think of the entire volume of the massing, that is a concern. So we start to, at that direction, start to encroach more upon the neighboring properties.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I'm only because I touched on that with the sun porch a little bit as well as trying to retain, that backyard kind of condition and that area being serving as a kind of an amenity. So I was a little adverse, a little bit disappointed when the footprint grew into the yard. Appreciate obviously the responsiveness in terms of trying to, bring the scale of the ridge line down. We talked a little bit about program and balancing program at one time, and I understand the constraint, but this seems like one of those items where, that in order to get there has to be probably some program that's removed in order to balance that back out. So Appreciate again the ridge line coming down, a little disappointed in terms of the depth as it relates to bringing that amenity or maintaining that amenity of the backyard. That was my thought. Detailing and things of that nature, appreciate that. That was. See, Mr. Sewell, is there anything that you want to add to that, sir?
I just echo your sentiment with respect to the depth of the garage, that changed.
Okay. I think that was the only item that was still up in the air. It was more about massing and proportion and ridge and such of the carriage house. So that everything else seems like that we were okay with, right? Go ahead and switch to item C, which was landscaping. Kind of going through memory, it was more about location of trees and being able to illustrate those now and understanding that a tree was going to be removed, kind of working through that, or a number of trees were going to be removed and working through that and understanding the relationship of some of those elements, as well as the sidewalk. So can we take the sidewalk first, since that's the first one that's on my screen now. So sidewalks, any additional concerns with what's been proposed now to try to mitigate the amount of concrete on the
No, I think that solution's fine.
Perfect. Perfect. The only other one is maybe talk us through the trees, just kind of in general.
Yeah, and I appreciate getting it, and I understand that you're kind of waiting until things get moving for final location. I appreciate getting the best you can today. So there's, looks like there's, you take that row heading west to east. Second one, and from the new carriage house is showing to be removed. I'm assuming that's one that arborist said was in poor shape.
Yes. Can I clarify? Right, so the site plan shows both the existing to be removed and proposed. So actually the second one in, that's really the first one that's there. We're adding in that first tree from the carriage house. That's a new tree.
That's a new tree.
Since you do have the car, would you mind shooting that over to me? So we have,
Yes, it's in the packet.
Oh,
It's been too.
I'm so used to getting them separately. Thank you.
And can we clarify, so you've added I see a fence symbol that runs along maybe the first 2/3 of the new house, but it's hard to tell if anything continues to the west towards the rear property.
Right, so the neighbor to the north a few months ago brought to the attention that the fence isn't actually on the property line. It's a little off. It's actually a little on our property. He was wanting clarification on what we plan to do with that. So we plan to move it to the property line because we want to keep that separation between our property and their property. So it will be removed during construction and reinstalled along the property.
Can we clarify how, is that running the entire length of the property?
It only goes back about 60 feet or so.
And so from that 60-foot mark back to the alley is no fence of any sort?
Correct.
Anything else? I think that they clarified as well as the fence and the wrought iron fence that addresses Neil, all that geometry and all of that will be retained. And the home is still sited. The sidewalk marries up with that existing opening, right? Is that?
It doesn't exist. The existing opening is slightly off center, so the fence would be modified to be centered as shown in the same plan.
How does that work with the existing retaining?
That will have to be removed and reinstalled. It's off by just a few feet. It'll just be that center section. It's not very far.
That hasn't been noted anywhere though. Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
That hasn't been noted anywhere. Is that correct?
It's noted on the site plan,
Yeah.
SP1.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand.
And that was a note that I added after your business meeting. There was a question about it, so that might not be in the packet you're looking at.
Okay, that's fair. Understandable. That was all. I'm just kind of trying to remember, guys, the things that were on our target last time from. So, materials in general, I think that they've provided materials for the main home. So is there any thoughts, any needs? The physical materials are here. The materials are in the packet as well. Are there any concerns with the proposed materials that are being for the project? These here are really for the main home from that perspective.
Yes.
Because the carriage house is being proposed as far
Exciting.
as like,
We'll be taking that.
Do you want me to?
Yes, please. I just want to make sure something happens to it, so I don't have to look. I know it's heavy, so
Okay,
it is appreciated.
sure.
Before we go into votes and things of that nature, I mean, there was probably, thinking about all of the items, there were, there was probably some, looking at the home, the main home, there was some thoughts about the sun porch and being able to provide an amenity that was in the backyard to try to offset some of that concern. That was one item, is what I'm hearing. And then the other item is potentially the depth, that kind of go hand in hand, the depth of the carriage house. Is there any thoughts or?
I'd like to clarify that the rear yard exceeds what is required by code. It's actually larger than the rear yard of the property to the south.
So there are no variances related to rear yard setbacks or anything of that nature, or the amount of
The rear variance is for the
Is for the
carriage.
carriage
house.
for the carriage house itself.
Of its
2,500 square feet of yard, so it's not.
Any other thoughts on anything else?
Further comments? As far as the amenity space, I mean, it's a 55-foot deep backyard to the carriage houses. Space, and but I'm nice.
We did review the carriage house and the main house with staff after the business meeting. A long conversation with the Jimmy, the historic preservation officer, and he felt that the carriage house was an appropriate passing for.
And the depth of the carriage house we're proposing is 5 foot 4 inches deeper than it was previous, which is fairly.
All right. So go ahead and break this down. In item A, I'm presuming that you guys are asking for votes today on items A, B, and C.
Correct.
All right. So let's go ahead and use A, B, and C, and if you guys feel comfortable that where we're headed.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, so a motion for item A, which is the main home.
We'll make a motion for BB-21-03-010E, 1135 Neal Avenue. Vote for the item A, the main house.
So the main house as submitted, no additional clarification.
Correct. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, sir. I was writing down, so sorry. You beat me to the punch. That's awesome. Love it. Any discussion? Go ahead and cast a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Aye. Mr. Sewell, okay. I didn't see it, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, nay.
Perfect. So 2-2.
I was gonna go back to Mr. Siwo for legal advice. We have a tie, so we've got 2-2. Do you happen to know off the top of your head what Mr. Roberts' rules say that how this is broken?
Not when we don't have. Four.
Well, we do have the core,
Or,
but we don't have.
right.
I've never had it happen before, but this is tied. So I unfortunately do not have an answer, because I never thought this would ever happen. Should I have some of your memory, has this ever?
I don't think it has.
Language Commissioner Connors.
I don't know. No, I said shoot. I didn't. I said shoot. I said shoot. I didn't
So,
totally say.
the best I can think of is me circling back to Jamie to see how we go forward.
Okay.
And perhaps adding in a clarification to say a special meeting, because we do not have the best track record scheduling those due to availability, but at least let me touch base with Jamie to see what should happen and, you know, what we can do after we circle back to it. And I'm sorry that we don't, that I don't have an answer.
Without pulling it, my belief is that it fails because you need a majority to pass them.
Okay.
So I'm 90% sure it fails because we don't have the majority to pass it.
Okay, and if it fails, we'd have to cite reasons.
Repeat that.
We have to cite reasons, like we typically if something's denied.
Oh, sure.
As the commissioners who were here last month know, I hope their feet to the fire. About, you know, what parts of city code, what parts of guidelines that we're citing for why we're not approving it. And I do have an integrity staff
What is
report.
particularly inappropriate about the building massing and design?
So
Per the guidance.
for the guidelines and for the code, which the statute supports all of the code and the guidelines that staff finds applicable. You know, it sounded like it, some of the heartburn rested with the sun porch, which, I don't know, would that fall under the scale, size, massing of structures relating to the opening projections being compatible with visually related structures and open spaces?
And that's my reason. You're reading from 3:31:16:12.
Yes, and that is K.
Exactly.
Okay.
And for clarification, my concern is the sun porch.
So sun porch and
It can't be about use, it has to be about
yeah,
the massing, detailing.
Correct, which falls into item K 31:16K.
Which is,
She's read it twice.
yeah.
I didn't quite think up on that.
Here, let me read that again. I'll read it a bit slower too, because I know
I just want to make sure I get this right.
So, and I'll list this in the reasons for denial too, but so we have it on the record. I'm not speeding through this. So we are citing 31:16.12, the standards for construction, specifically K, which notes the scale, the size, and massing of structures in relation to open spaces. Openings and projections shall be compatible with adjacent visually related structures and open spaces. And we're specifically noting that the sun porch and the porch falls into that, or just the sun porch.
Do you have additional comments, Mr. Conyers? I don't know.
No, understandable. Those were my concerns as far as the sun porch and the materiality of the lower floor. But that was my two items.
And Sean, do you want to look through to see if there's something regarding materiality? Because
Yeah.
Mr. Fertleman has been trying to say something, so I want to give him the chance to speak.
Understandable.
well, what specifically is it being compatible? I mean, you're citing the code, but what specifically are you citing that is?
This process is not for you to ask us questions.
She just told us to.
Yes.
Yeah, so for part of the denial, we do go through the reasons. Sometimes it's a little bit more black and white with, the code. And I'm just making sure, like, is it specifically the sun porch? Because I do give comments in the denial for like reasons why it was denied. If we have something specific that they can know that they need to fix, it helps them revise the design. So they can, have a quicker turnaround and come back. And, we can work through this process.
Yeah, so it's the sun porch in general. I am opposed to the sun porch. It states it shall be compatible with adjacent visually related structures and open spaces. My interpretation of that provision is that the sun porch does not satisfy that provision. That's my reason.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Sewell.
Oh, sure.
Thank you further.
And that's an important notion moving forward, that if aesthetics of something comes back, it's not necessarily the scale and massing of that, but it's the compatible. Being compatible with those adjacent.
Right. And I know we've discussed this in the past, but we've discussed a lot of things.
I'm gonna cite item H and item N as it relates to materiality.
Okay. I'm gonna get my note down, then read those out. So 3116.12 standards new construction. H is the choice of material, texture, and color for the facade of the structure should relate attractively to and be tempered by the prominent material, texture, and color of adjacent and visually related structures. Simplicity is preferred. And then M is the commission shall consider, in addition to any other pertinent factors, the architectural characteristics typical of structures in the district or listed property, the historical and architectural value and significance, architectural style, general design, arrangement, texture, material, and color of the architectural feature involved in its relation to the architectural features of other structures in the immediate neighborhood. All right, thank you, commissioners. And we're not necessarily used to doing that for denials, but I.
No, it's understandable. Thank you.
So unless anybody has any additional reasons to cite, I'm going to move us along so we can vote on the Carriage House.
Thank you. So go ahead and move to the Carriage House as item B. Is there a motion?
I will make a motion for application BB 21 03 010 E 1135 Neal Avenue for the Carriage House, item B, the Carriage House as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
So go ahead and move to a vote. Is there any discussion at all before we move? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I did not vote. I intended to say aye.
I'm sorry. So that's 4-0.
Yes.
Yep.
So that passes.
Yep.
Right, and then we'll move on to the landscaping.
So we have landscaping.
And I'd like to request,
Yes,
since it was pointed out, we've got that retaining wall kind of modification, if we could have a scaled measure drawing just of what that's going to look like prior to issuance of certificate, just so we have it on record that we know what it's going to look like and where everything's going to be placed.
Yeah, and that was the one thing of just trying to understand clarity of, and I apologize that I don't maybe have that most current drawing, but I just wanted to make sure that some of these existing elements, doing construction, sometimes things happen. And so so we want to make sure that those existing elements find their way back in. And so do we feel that there's enough information on the drawings and when it comes for that really is clear, because that's part of the seal.
My preference is typically to see something, but we have been discussing the landscaping a while, so if it's staff, I feel comfortable working with them. We could also subcommittee this, or if everybody wants to see it, we could continue it.
Is staff appropriate, guys? Just knowing that this is of a concern. Is staff reviewing this information in terms of the scale measure drawings for documenting the existing conditions and working through that for the retaining wall and the fences? Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like we've seen enough to this point.
Okay. All right, so can I get a motion regarding the landscape?
Motion for BB 21 03 1013 1135 Neal Avenue, item C, landscaping to the final approval by staff.
Scale measure drawing.
And to please include a scale measured drawing as part of that submission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Kimberly, in addition to 12K, 12A was the other reason for now that I was looking for.
Okay, you want to read 12A off?
Sure. New structures. New structures should look new, reflecting contemporary design standards while utilizing contemporary design elements that relate to existing contributing properties surrounding the new structure. Building height, width, mass, and proportion affect the degree of compatibility between the old and the new.
All right, and then typically, as I say when we have denials, I'll email you the packets. It's probably not going to be till Monday that I'm getting stuff out, just with the additional day off that we have. But anytime, let me know if you have any questions. I'll try to get everything out as quickly as I can, and as accurately as I can too. But thank you guys for all of your help.
Thank you for working. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, as we proceed, I will move on to the staff report for number 2, which is BB-21-10-011. This is 1137 Highland Avenue. This is for a code violation that has been issued for work prior to European approval. And this is for these small fruit trees are to be planted and trained into the asperilla shape. 5 wooden posts of treated cedar will stand approximately 4 feet high with wires to support the fruit trees. We did see this last month. Commissioners at the business meeting requested to know if the hedges and fence at 1127 Highland Street were approved. HPO did check the file, but there are no approvals on record. The hedges have been there since 1989, though. HPO staff does not support the asperilla trees as the highest fence approved in front yards is typically wrought iron, which doesn't obscure the views of the house. Staff finds the slope and minimal landscaping of the front yards along Highland Avenue to be distinguishing characteristics of the property. Per the Victorian Village guidelines, low shrubbery is appropriate, which is why shrubs are common throughout the historic district. Plantings such as bamboo, ivy, and pines are not supported by staff. Staff recommends the approval of the application with the condition that the 4-foot-high treated cedar be removed and that no screening trees are planted in the yard. Basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, specifically 1, 2, and 5, the standards for site improvement, specifically A and B, and the Victorian Village guidelines regarding fences and yards.
Thank you. Is there an applicant? Perfect. Thank you. Get you sworn in. Would you be able to state your name?
Yes, my name is Sarah Hayford.
Sarah, do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Thank you so much. Do you have anything to add to the presentation?
No, I have some questions. And I guess I'm sort of, what I was reading for guidelines was a Victorian Village guideline book. Is there another Columbus City guideline that I should be reading?
No, so I also pulled from the city code
Okay.
as well, so we kind of use both, and we recognize that the Victorian village guidelines were done in like the 1970s. So we're aware that all of the guidelines need a little bit of a revamp, and that is a years-long process. So, and we also kind of hope at some point to provide the guidelines, but kind of down the road, we use the guidelines in conjunction with the code.
Okay, yeah, because I was working from the guidelines, and I guess my understanding was that the shrubs and fences below 4 feet were within the Victorian village guidelines, but that's not what I heard from you, so was there a different?
So we really haven't seen the espadrille trees like used as you're proposing them. So we want to kind of keep things consistent, like the front lawns being considered contributing as in staff's opinion for that, and not for kind of like blocking things or like the plants acting as a fence.
Okay, yeah, I mean, because the goal of these foliar trees is that they are open and that they don't block the lawns or the view of the
Yeah,
houses.
and I think some of what the commissioners discussed last time was maybe having a tree or two, like in the front yard as a decorative element, which would something that, you know, staff would be supportive of, just not the entire wall. So,
As soon as you start stringing many of these together, it does really become that fence like barrier. Wall. So I applaud the notion. I certainly celebrate creative thinkings in the landscape. Per the guidelines, I think this particular application of it just is not in line with the neighborhood. I think again, exploring moments where that happens, where it's not really that continuous fence, or considering it in a side yard or a rear yard, I think it's a different scenario.
Right, and so I guess, like, I'm sort of trying to work through exactly what's unacceptable here. It's the trees being in line with each other that's unacceptable?
It's the trees being used
As a fence.
as a fence. In our interpretation of it in this application, it really needs to be looked at as a fence.
Okay, and like, which part of the guidelines is that?
You challenge me off the top of my head. As part of the landscaping guidelines, I believe in the Victorian Village Handbook, I couldn't tell you the page number or item.
Page number 31.
Top of my head, but I think it does give the appropriate types or styles of fencing for front.
And I think it refers to shrubs. A
Yes.
shrub is not a tree. And so we can keep spinning around about definitions. Basically, you're trying to use trained trees as a fence in your front yard. That's basically the concept. That's your intent. And there's nothing that confirms that as something that is appropriate in the neighborhood.
Right, I mean, there's also nothing that states that that's inappropriate in my reading of the guidelines.
And I guess we have an appeal process if you want to take that and do that. But this is what we're reading here. This is what you've heard. And I think we should bring it to vote because I don't think there's no more material. And I think we've discussed it as far as we can go.
Okay, yeah, I would like to pursue the appeal process. I guess,
well, let's not get too
Well,
far
then,
first.
yeah, first, yeah, vote.
okay,
Yeah, we can cross the appeal process if we're going to do
there we
that.
go.
But I completely understand of wanting to like explore all possibilities as far as we go.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess I just sort of, without a sense of the sort of specific thing that's not appropriate about it, it's hard for me to see where, how I can get, sort of use the sunlight in my yard and use the yard that I want in the way that I want to use it, while also respecting the guidelines.
And I guess the other side of that is, how do we know that you're going to take care of those trees? How do we know it's going to look like what we've presented? When you put a wrought iron fence, it doesn't change. It's not a living thing. I mean, we just don't know. And we haven't done it, and we usually don't set precedents like that. Great idea, something we'd like to see. Maybe in your backyard, I don't know, but not in your front yard.
Okay, so the care is a concern.
Personally, that's my perspective.
Okay, so to answer Tim's question about appropriate fences, it states that fences of iron, stone, and wood, but generally not hybrids of materials. I'm gonna start making sure you guys all have your handbooks so we can.
We're over here trying. That was 3116.13, item B.
It's like, yeah, but it's not, it's hard to search in the.
It is. So thank you for bearing with us from that perspective.
But, you know, if there's any other kind of alternatives or compromises we might be able to explore, I think we've already mentioned some, like putting it side of the house, back of the house, as well as, you know, some things to think about, because we can always alter an application for a vote too.
Is that something that you would consider in terms of altering the application before the vote, or?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess, again, the constraint that I'm working from is that in terms of sunlight, the side and the back aren't really options. So I can move the trees, or, you know, I'm happy to move the placement of the trees in the front lawn, but they do need to be in the front because of the sun.
It's kind of, it's hard for us to shift the home from, or
Unfortunately.
shift the sun from that perspective, so definitely understand the challenge from that perspective. And so is there are you wanting us to go ahead and vote based upon the application and currently as the decorative trees being used as a fence?
So, I mean, so I'm happy to move the trees in the, if it's the fence part that's a concern, you know, I can move them back in the front yard or sort of stagger them so they're less of a fence. I mean, I think I would still probably need some supports, but, you know, if a lower support would be more appropriate.
So would there be a quantity, or would there be, you know, a positioning of them, or just kind of thinking about, or is it one, is it, you know, just kind of talking out loud, guys, I'm just.
No, it's a great point. And I think it's in my mind, as soon as you have, you know, the 3 posts and 2 of those side by side, it is becoming a fence. So I guess the question is, you know, kind of where I'm in for this, if you just have the 2 posts and single application of that, is that a single tree? It's a piece of sculpture in the yard.
I guess it's an application because, you know, you go to Longwood, you go to any great gardens that have productions, they have rows and rows of these things and they're trained and they know how to use them. They don't use them in front yards as gates. They're usually in back courtyards against brick walls and other areas. So the application of this is very unusual.
Yeah,
You have to admit it's very unusual.
it's unusual in Victorian Village. Yeah, again, I don't see unusual.
I've never, tell me where you, send me some pictures of where this is used as a front gate to a home, where you have a process that you're going through to get to a front door.
I
Never
mean,
seen it.
I did include some links in the application that includes it.
Didn't see it.
It was in the materials, to her credit, she had. Page. These links is what she's talking about. But are you specifically asking for something in Victorian Village or in the Columbus?
I'm just saying anywhere. I've traveled the world and I haven't seen it. And I've been to some of the best gardens there are. And it's just very, 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 very odd.
So you're saying you normally see them like
Exactly.
this?
In the garden, Franklin Park, I mean, yes, those examples are frequent and.
Or in a trained production farm where there are rows and rows and rows of them. Like grapevines, pear trees, apple trees, exactly.
So,
Mostly always against walls.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of application that.
And you know, that an application as a side yard fence, I think it's a different conversation in my mind.
It's actually a back, it looks like the back of the house.
I think you can see the edge of the sidewalk there. I mean, it's obviously a different kind of house too, so it's.
Okay. So we have 2 options. One is a motion to continue. And then you would come back with a revised landscaping plan based upon what was talked about today. Or we would go ahead and vote on what you've proposed. So, what you've proposed. So those will be the 2 options.
Right, and if you deny what I proposed, does that have to go to the appeal, or can I come back with a revision next time?
You could come back with a
Yeah,
revision.
you could do either
Yes,
or.
you
Because,
could-
you know, we could go through with, as proposed, and it could be denied, and then you could decide, you know, want to revise it. You could do that. But I will note that if it gets denied, you only have 10 days to appeal it from when I send out the packet. So that's also something to take into consideration
Okay.
too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess then I don't, if you all are willing to vote on it, then I don't see a disadvantage for me of voting on it. You don't like it, we can.
Okay, that's easy enough. We just want to make sure that we give the options. Just, okay,
Yeah,
good.
no.
All right, so can we have a vote or motion related to as submitted?
Motion for application BB 21 10 011 B, 1137 Highland Avenue submitted.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Seeler. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, say aye.
I,
Motion denied.
Reasoning for me is 3116-13 standard for site improvements. Actually, excuse me, Victorian Village guidelines, item 11, fences and yards. Item B, in terms of appropriate fences of ironstone or wood, the general hybrids of these materials.
Would you also cite 7 plantings that complement the house and accentuate the entrance as well, or no?
No.
All right.
Awesome.
So not hearing anything else?
nope,
We'll stick with that, and I will, as I said, that we have Veterans Day off, so it should be Monday when I start getting things out. So Monday, Tuesday, expect an email as long as I can get through all of the minutes.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for working with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I'm sure you feel like we're running really behind.
yeah, who tends the clocks in this new building? It's obvious.
Yes, it'll get fixed in a couple of weeks. Honestly, I'm not sure.
I hope this is not a centralized clock system in this building, is it?
Well,
No, you have to go through, we have to take each one down and, you know, wind it or,
they'll be fixed in March.
Yeah, right.
that's good. Okay, so the application number 4 is UP-21-10-016. This is 347 West First Avenue. If our applicant is here and you'd like to come up and sit while I'm talking, it would be appreciated. So this application is to remove the existing rear deck and replace with a 10-foot by 14-foot covered wood porch and to construct a 10-foot by 14-foot flat rubber roof over a portion of the deck. We saw this last month, so I've included the minutes. Commissioners at the business meeting wanted to know if there are any intended improvements to the existing sidewalk or the bottom of the deck porch steps. EPO staff notes that the section drawing of the flat roof does include a hat vent. Such vents are not appropriate on roof structures. Staff recommends approval of the application and the condition that that hat vent be removed from the design. Basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11, standards for alteration, specifically 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10.
Thank you. You guys want to state your name, get you sworn in?
Zach Borovitz. James Knox.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Do you have anything to add to the presentation?
Well, we were just talking about what the hat vent was on here. If you want to point to what section you saw it in.
So,
It's in this section over here.
Do you know what page that is?
it's
Unfortunately.
page 3 is 6,
Okay, thank you, guys.
left-hand drawing.
So here, I'm going to get them.
Yeah, page 6.
So it is this roof vent here.
Section here.
It's a little odd.
So regarding that, it's not there, would that clear that up?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like a standard section that we have in our stack of drawings, and we did not show having a vent on the plan and elevation views of our drawings. That was just simply, it was an oversight that
Okay,
was not pointed out,
okay,
Understandable.
Thank you.
basically kind of disregarded.
okay.
Anything else that you guys want to add to the presentation, just overall, in terms of what you've done here, or?
I mean, as far as what we've done is we've extended the roof out, we've turned it into a porch. Exact same size of the existing one. It's all gonna be, treated pine, the railing's gonna be cedar. Around the skirting, we're gonna be having a skirt border that goes around it, which is in the rear elevation and the right side elevation, for something that you guys have requested. As far as the two comments is, I think, the bottom of the steps and the sidewalk. As far as bottom of the steps, were you referring to the actual steps or the brick walkway, or?
From the porch itself, the bottom of those, the porch, the bottom of those steps just into the yard. I'm just asking if there was any other additional site improvements that are part of this application.
No, there isn't.
My only, are you done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say the same thing.
Just trying to move things along, folks.
Yes, sir. Thank you
We're a
very
little
much.
wordy today.
Thank you, sir.
The only thing, I think this looks fine, the only thing that I would like to see is sort of an engaged column on either side of that porch. What?
You took the thunder.
Oh, is that what you were
No,
gonna
it's
say?
awesome. It's good stuff.
So the engaged columns would match that existing column in the corner, correct?
Yes. Half column on each side. Is
Then,
that okay?
yes, we can add a faux column there.
Yeah, half of it.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's engaged into the house.
Yeah.
Super.
All right, with sealed and measured drawings coming to staff prior to issuance. You want to take that motion, or do we have further discussion?
Any other discussion at all?
You could say it again if you wanted,
No, sir. No. That's literally, no.
or you could say that was a brilliant
That was a
comment.
brilliant comment.
There you
That was a
go.
brilliant comment.
All righty. Let's make a motion for
Motion. Go ahead.
21-10-016 347 West First Avenue as presented. And as far as adding those engaged columns on the porch, though we would be requesting drawings that go back to staff before it gets fully approved.
Is there a second?
And yours of that.
I just want to clarify locations. So it would be kind of like right behind this, right? And then right behind it here, so.
Yeah, so yeah, I would see it right here,
Yeah.
Okay,
and I would see it right here.
okay.
So if I look at the column this way, I see one on the wall, and if I look at this way, I see them.
So you wanted two additional.
Yeah, one column split in two, and then you slap it on each side.
That's correct. Is there a second?
Also adding that,
Want to amend your motion to include the omission of the roof vent?
Oh, that's right. Also, it was brought up that they were omitting the roof vent that was on the drawings that were presented.
Go ahead and
Second.
cast a vote here. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you guys for working with us. We
Thanks a
truly
lot.
appreciate it. Thank you.
One quick question. Do we submit a new revised set of plans to these to the commission to
You'll just.
sign off on it?
you'll
Just send to
submit
Kimberly.
me, So instead of coming back here,
Okay.
we'll work together to, if there's any revisions that need.
So just taking out that house vent and then adding 2 columns.
Yep.
Big columns.
The two half columns or the engaged column.
We would email that to you. You
Yes.
would then send it back to us.
With an approval?
Yes, I provided everything
Yeah.
with that, and if I have any questions, I'll probably share with Jeffrey, but I think I know what we're going on about, so.
Then we can go through the building permit process.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you guys.
Cool, thank you guys.
All right, application number 5, BB-21-10-018. This is 978 to 980 Harrison Avenue. This is to replace the original wood siding with the smooth finish flat smart siding. We saw this last month, so the minutes are in the staff report. So a quick summary of this project so far. At the last hearing, the application was split into siding, which was A, continued, that we're reviewing now. The pillow window replacements, which was denied, and painting and gutter downspout replacement, metal porch roof, doors and vents, and that was all approved. So HPO staff did conduct a site visit on October 27th to investigate the condition of the existing siding. And the applications have been submitted for windows and the replacement blocks and patio. HPO staff is working with the applicant on these and has staff approved the latter. So there's a couple more things that are in the pipeline that we've been working on kind of behind the scenes, but
Okay.
it does show up in, staff approval.
Understand.
And the commission at the business meeting requested the product sheets for the new material, the siding, soffit, and trim, which has been included with the revised materials. During the site visit, staff determined that the siding on the northeast and south elevations are in poor condition. There are numerous issues, including missing portions and dry rot. The west front elevation is in relatively good condition. Staff discussed having the appropriate dimensions for window trim to avoid the area of flat, and supports installing the hardy board over the existing siding due to structural integrity of the building. Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the fish scale siding is retained and the trim is built out to the appropriate dimensions. Basis for recommendation is 3116.11, the expansions for alteration, specifically 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 11, and the Victorian Village Guidelines, citing windows.
Thank you. Will you state your name, get you sworn in?
David Bonney.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Do you have anything to add to anything that Kimberly offered?
I think she got it all.
Any discussion, guys? So obviously, we only
No, I
have
think-
the siding and the windows. Siding and the windows were before. Windows, I think it was only last time, it wasn't about the opening size, it was more about the materiality.
Yep.
So really, right now, we only have the siding to deal with. And then obviously, we asked staff to go take a look at the siding. Has there been a determination made? Is there any additional thoughts on that?
Nope.
So one thing we're probably thinking about is just, when we faced this before, we had a couple properties that we've kind of gone through this property and being able to see maybe some measured drawings or some details that would be provided as part of that package. So staff could understand how those details were going to be retained or be built out as part of that. But not necessarily coming back here as long as staff felt that it was appropriate in that revised packet. Does that seem like that would be acceptable?
Yes.
Yep.
So I'm going to know, I believe that was subcommittee last time. Are you confident? Are you guys all comfortable with staff handles that?
Well, we could do it last time, that's fine.
Okay, we can do subcommittee then. That's,
I was gonna say, I just wanted to make sure you guys were comfortable with it.
That's fine.
we can
Okay.
do it to be consistent. Now, obviously, that would help the consistency with the application as well and from that standpoint.
And
So
do you guys happen to remember what the address was with that last one? Because I can
Sorry.
provide you
it was
examples.
a second,
First.
right? First or second. It was a little small cottage with the.
No, it was on Second.
I think
It was on the corner of Second and Island.
Yeah, I think it was. I think you're right.
Okay, that is great. I'll be able to look. up
It's
what it
Second and
is.
Island.
Yeah, I would bet money on his memory for sure. Okay, that'd be fine. And then we want a subcommittee consisting of. I don't want to exclude you guys. Does anybody want to?
Be all of us, it doesn't really matter.
Right. We just
It-
do
I
it as a
mean,
subcommittee.
it might actually be good if we included everyone, so
Yeah.
we can see what the process is and
Okay, be very helpful.
walk through it.
So everybody present. is what
Yes.
you're saying.
Yes.
Yes, and we'll do that as a subcommittee. Did you understand? us?
I don't know what the subcommittee is about.
Okay,
Sure. So, commissioners are requesting some additional drawings of the details. They're kind of concerned with how the trim sits with some areas such as transitioning from the fish scales to the new siding, like making sure that's built out correctly. I want to say the trim of the windows.
some of the windows, corner boards, things of
We've
that
had
nature.
bad experiences where here's your siding, they put hardy board on, and there's no definition in the windows. The window trim is just flat on that same surface. So what we're looking for, the details on, once you wrap this thing in new siding, how do you bring out the original details that we see here?
Sure.
So that's just a couple of little section details, and they don't have to necessarily be to scale, but just really trying to understand that materiality and understand that variation in plane when these elements start to interact.
So that's just drawings I need to present then?
That would just be a few little details. That's-
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want them measured or sketches okay?
Sketches are totally fine. I don't want to, I think the last time, totally fine. I think the last person marked up some manufacturer details and kind of showed what was existing and did some PDF writer overlay and just, sketches are totally fine.
Okay, so the trim, window trim, the fish scale siding,
Yep.
and
And corner
anything,
board.
Yeah.
any corner boards? Okay,
Yep. And that's basically your difference in depth.
okay.
All right, can we,
And if there are any other situations that we don't see that it plays into depth, I would just throw it in there, do a little sketch.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how long will that take to then get a final approval?
So that depends on wrangling all of these gentlemen for answers. So typically I give them about a week. Everyone's typically pretty good, but sometimes things pop up and I do have to chase people down, so it could be longer. But that's also based on when you get new drawings too.
the hope is if you can get drawings quicker, it's going to be fresher in our minds and we're not going to run into the holiday.
Sure.
So I think that would be beneficial from that perspective. So,
Okay,
and I think in the end, it's going to benefit you as the homeowner getting the work done as well. Being able to communicate that to a contractor, et cetera. I think you'll be more pleased with the outcome too as well. It takes some of the guessing game out.
sure.
So,
And do you want to issue the caution that it might not be one email, there might be a little back and forth, just based on our last subcommittee for that, but
I understand.
I think if I provide an example, you'll be able to know what they're looking for. Get through this a lot faster.
Perfect.
We
That'd be
just
helpful.
went through that a couple months ago, so.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful. Very
Okay,
clear? Awesome. Can we get a motion accordingly, guys?
Sure. Motion for. I have my eye. 10-018978980 Harrison Avenue. As submitted, and there will be a subcommittee, some section drawings of the transition between siding and window treatments, fish scales, and any other area on the house that needs to be detailed.
Second.
Any discussion, guys? Yes, vote is, all those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you so much. With the siding and then windows, you're totally 100% taken care of, right?
Yes,
You guys
yes,
have worked
we
all
are.
that out.
Which you will
Okay.
send me an email as
Okay.
well.
Yes.
I will address that separately. We are running. Sorry to kind of skip over that, but I did see the email.
Okay. All right, appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
All right, application number 6, BB-21-11-013. This is 95 West First Avenue. If the applicant is here, they can come on up as I'm reading out the staff report. This is to remove wood exterior steps and replace with concrete steps with a wrought iron handrail. Commissioners at the business meeting requested some additional contextual photographs of the stairs next door. They also wanted to know what the finishing for the wrought iron would be. The stairs were approved for repair to match the existing steps in 2011. A code violation for the stairs and other repairs was issued in January of 2019. A COA was issued in April of the same year to repair deteriorated concrete steps on the side of the porch, so not the stairs we're looking at now. Earliest photo in the file shows concrete steps in 1971 and sometime between 1982 and 1989, the steps were replaced with wood. The surrounding steps showed poured concrete with landings in the lawn. Should these steps be replaced to match those neighboring ones, or is replacing to match existing with the wrought iron handrails sufficient? Staff recommends approval of the application with any modifications or clarifications from the commission based on City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration. And do we have our applicant for 95 West First Avenue?
I don't. Or do we have to table this one and,
So we're going to skip it for now. We will circle back just in case they are running late.
okay, and this was number 6? No,
This was-
7, right?
No, this was number 6, you're right.
I'll start to be number 6. Okay, I just write it down, that's all. Okay,
So number 7, BB-21-11-014, 104 West Hubbard Avenue. I see somebody standing up, so I'm going to keep reading also.
thank you.
So this is to replace the existing HVAC equipment to include AC, mount the new HVAC equipment on the flat roof of a 1975 addition. Commissioners at the business meeting noted that the roof screening matched what was previously discussed. Staff wants to know if a smooth screen would be more appropriate than the proposed corrugated screening. It was noted that the proposed fence on the ground may feel out of place. Staff recommends approval of the application with any modifications or clarifications made by the commission. Basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration.
Thank you. Get you sworn in. Can you state your name?
Dennis David. Katsumi Maroi.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to the presentation, guys?
No, we have a completed set of drawings. We have addressed some of the commentary that we received from the last time, so we feel confident what we're presenting.
Any discussion at all? Based upon the information that was maybe talked about at the business meeting and we'll
Nope.
follow up?
Nope.
Gonna have a motion to, anybody want to move to a motion?
Motion for 21-11-014, 104 West Hubbard Avenue, as submitted.
There's a second.
Second.
All right, move to a vote. Any discussion at all, guys? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good luck, you guys.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you again for all the legwork and conversations up front. And we truly appreciate that.
Oh.
That was very helpful.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to application number 8. This is -11-015, 1055 North High Street. This application is to install a 2-foot 4-inch high by 3-foot 6-inch wide projecting sign at the corner of the building. The sign is to have the push-through lighting with opaque vinyl. To install the sign, the terracotta tile will be parallel with the mounting. Commissioners at the business meeting wanted to confirm that the Valencia sign has previous approval. The applicant sent over the COA for the sign to the approved under the address be 1051 North High Street. Commissioners wanted to know if the building owners had the comprehensive site plan for the previous COA, which is number 15-2-11A. Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the sign is moved closer to the entrance of the store. And if no comprehensive sign plan has been designed, then 1051 North High Street signs has a precedence, and this one should be similar. So the basis for recommendation are so design guidelines, the general guidelines, and as well as the projecting blade sign guidelines.
Go ahead and state your name, get you sworn in.
Michelle Applebaum?
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead. Do you have anything to add to the presentation?
No, just, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any discussion, guys? So it seems like two items, I think suggestions from staff is in relationship to the existing sign that's there. And at the same time, the location of the proposed sign, where it's being proposed versus potentially we're closer to the entry location of the storefront that it's being assigned to. Am I stating that correctly? Okay.
So what I'm looking at doesn't show me that, so could we explain that really quickly?
Oh, so we've got two examples of previous COAs. So this is the COA that was for the building. So this is where it mentions the comprehensive sign plan that was requested for the building. And then the other example is the Valencia sign, the 1051 North High Street, the existing sign that is there, which I misspoke at the business meeting because I assumed it was the same address when it was actually filed under a different address, which sometimes happens with these larger buildings, that it has multiple address numbers. Let's think about that. So, and then what Nolan is showing is this is the proposed sign for this location, as well as the location of the proposed sign.
So could you go back to that
I'm
picture?
trying to understand where it's being.
So are you telling me it's on that corner
Yes.
up by
Just below those security cameras.
terrible placement? I mean, what's interesting about this building is it's a terracotta building. It was made to be pristine. The package was supposed to be consistent. And now we're kind of swerving left and right to make sure tenants get what they want. I don't mind the sign. I just think that placement on the corner is horrible.
Do you mind if I ask why?
Just because it's a corner. Is it this corner or is it this corner?
Yeah, I mean.
Does it wrap around the corner? No, it doesn't. It's just really odd, and that corner is such a strong thing that it shouldn't be disturbed architecturally by that sign. So if it moves down, I don't see where the problem is moving it down closer to the entrance.
It's not a huge problem. It's just that they were hoping to have it on the corner because they are on a corner to get some visibility from that other street.
I get what they're trying to do, but it ruins the corner of that building.
Really, does staff recommend specifically where the sign should go? I think you mentioned closer to the entrance.
Yes. So typically if you've got signage along North High Street, it would be somewhere closer to the entrance. So kind of in the greater proximity of it, I would suggest, because this does have those basic windows, probably somewhere within that entry kind of like block.
Where is the entrance on this? Is it that main door or is it?
I have this, but I don't know.
So
That was
Yeah, it's,
So there would just be one tenant on that ground floor there?
yeah, this is their entrance. So they
Right.
have this entire space.
I mean, which is also, when I look at a sign, usually a sign historically or architecturally is over a door or over an entrance. So I come to the corner where you have it placed, and really I have to walk down, 3 storefronts to get to the entrance. So I think there's a practicality of moving that down towards the entrance versus having it on the corner. Those are two things that come to my mind very clearly.
So that band that is directly to the right of the door, is that what you're thinking? That first section that is directly to the right of the door?
Quite frankly, I think it could go there, or I even think it could go one down. I don't think,
I always think from a balance standpoint that one down, just the way the Valencia sign is one down from that door to go one to the north.
I think you have a choice between those two.
Okay.
Maybe that'll help them.
All right, Jeff, are you thinking about a blade sign, or you think that something that's applied to the gray areas in a similar fashion as the Valencia?
No, this is a blade sign,
Okay.
not a,
Yeah, I just wanted to be
Not
sure.
black.
I just wanted to be sure what was being talked about.
The previous approval does mention that comprehensive sign plan.
well, and I think if they pick either of those two piers, I think they'll be okay. And that they need to be very careful when they're working with that terracotta.
Yeah.
And I think you'll be,
I would actually recommend going that, next one down that's kind of in between the trees. So it's the one that is closest, being directly underneath the 6 of 65.
Okay,
Next one over, yeah, right there.
okay.
And is there any way, given what's being proposed for, that plate and that shroud, is that plate oversized, or is that really what that plate that's needed, and the size of the plate that's needed?
The 10 by 10,
Yeah,
yeah, that we couldn't go any smaller and have it secure.
so when that blade or when that 10 by 10 is placed, that 10 by 10 is going to take out one, is that one
Of the
of the
terracotta.
terracotta, is that?
Well, what will happen is the terracotta tiles will be removed from the top down to where the blade sign is. The blade sign will be attached, and then the terracotta tiles will be reapplied, and there will just be a little 10 by 10 section cut out around the plate. So the terracotta will be all around, but there will be a little cutout where that plate for the blade sign is attached.
Yeah, they're just trying to get rid of the plate.
I mean, it's the beauty of modern technology, that they can take those.
To match the terracotta, so like just the plate part, so it blends in a little bit more.
It's just trying to get, I was just trying to get rid of the exposed fasteners and all the elements related to that. So it's just, again, it's just more simplified and
I
less.
mean, I am sure we could paint that plate to match the terracotta color, if that helps.
I don't know.
All right. Is there any way to at least cover up the exposed fasteners? Is there a piece of a shroud that could kind of cap this thing off and just make it clean?
I can check, I don't know.
Yes, some kind of expansion plate or something, yeah. Just to cover the heads because those are going to be expansion bolts and those are going to be, they're going to be, they're not like recess fixtures, they're like, recess fasteners. Those are like
Yeah,
pretty significant bolts from that perspective. So just trying to clean up the attachment,
okay.
I think that would be very helpful.
And you're saying something to cover them, right? But not you want the entire plate covered or just those?
So here's what I think. I think that there's materiality in that building, and I think if they paint that plate out terracotta, I think you're not even gonna notice the difference. I think they're just gonna have to do a good job matching that color.
Mhm.
So it just gets toned down.
We could try to, it's just a tough color to match. And that's all. So that's why I was really nervous about the color.
It could turn pink.
Yeah,
really
just,
quick.
that's all.
So-
That's what I was nervous about.
When staff does.
Doing a special plate can go
We ask for features
very.
or paint samples. So we could always do, a conditional approval based on the paint sample submitted.
I'm nervous about paint.
Yeah.
If the facade was painted, that'd be totally different. But since it's terracotta, it's a little bit different. You know, so, it
It's
just
10 by 10 and it's how high?
10 feet.
Paint it out.
Yeah, okay. I think if you had a way to, I think just look at the fasteners,
Okay,
right? I think that would be very helpful.
okay. So just so I'm clear, the fasteners are not the entire plate is your concern, it's the fasteners that are shown,
Yes,
correct?
yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, so you want me to look at options to cover those? And then painting would be a backup plan, is that correct?
But just so I'm clear, the aluminum plate is gonna be the same color as the sign, which is gonna be different than the color of the terracotta, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so it wouldn't make sense to cover, or to paint the fasteners. So they would stand out from the color of the aluminum plate. So you'd either have to paint the fasteners and
And
the aluminum plate the same color as the terracotta,
yes,
or just not do anything to it,
yeah, and that's a good point. If we just cover the fasteners, you still see the plate.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, the plate is fine. I guess the plate, I was hopeful that the plate could be recessed, the fasteners could be recessed, and then all of a sudden, when the terracotta went back on, all you would see was the posts,
Mhm.
right? But that, obviously, constructability, that can't happen.
Right.
And so, I guess what I was just proposing, is there a way to make the fastening or to make the fasteners go away? You know, smooth it out. So it'd be another piece of brake metal that would be 10 by 10 that would, you know, have a return on it. So that would just kind of cover up,
okay.
you know, these bolts that you're.
Okay, so even if it is the same color as the sign,
That's correct.
you just don't like the eyesore of those fasteners sticking out. Is that what I'm,
That's,
okay.
So are those fasteners the same color, are they truly aluminum, or are they the same color as the aluminum plate? Were they, I would think,
See,
I'm curious if they blend with that.
right across it where it doesn't.
yeah, I don't think they're gonna be the same color as the plate.
So they will stand out as
Yes.
a true.
I think, yeah, I think they're gonna be, you know, more of a metal. Yeah. They're,
I'd also be curious, given the size of these aluminum fasteners, if you were to put something on top of it to cover, how far out you now go? That's the depth of those fasteners. Do you have the depth of the fasteners? As it's depicted on this image, whether or not it's correct,
Yeah.
it already is the same depth as the terracotta.
they're not gonna stick out a lot, but, you know, they're there.
Would this sign be better, the whole thing, if it were black? The Valencia sign's black, all the lighting is black.
Well, Valencia, I think, is just a vinyl sign.
It is
And it
fine.
doesn't have any voting elements with it. So
Right.
A little bit different ballgame.
So, I don't wanna continue to dwell, but that was the only item, because I've run into this where the expansion bolts are, you know, silver, there's something else from that perspective. So, given the size of the sign, if there's a possibility of being able to pursue or look at that, I think that would be very helpful in what goes back to staff. And, would that be acceptable to take a look at that?
Yes.
Okay. Is that
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
guys?
agreeable with that.
Perfect. Can we proceed with a motion by any chance, guys?
Motion for VB 21-11-015, 1055 North High Street, as submitted to staff. However, trying to think of the changes you made here. The location, as approved by staff, the location would be moved closer towards the entrance of the building within one of the two center terracotta pillars, what we're called.
Then
And final plans to be submitted for staff approval. Particular points in question are whether the fasteners will be the same color as the aluminum plate, or whether there is a cover that could go over the fasteners, whether it's the same color as the terracotta or the aluminum plate.
Second.
Any other discussion? Go ahead, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
So just so I'm clear, I just need to submit it to you.
Yes.
Right? And so I understand those, whatever's gonna cover those fasteners either needs to match the plate or match, no, we don't want it to match terracotta because then it'll stand out, so you want it to match the plate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then really, we're just trying to mask the exposed fasteners being
Yeah.
out there. That's all. It's just-
Okay.
Because it's not something that fastener is gonna be an expansion bolt type fastener. And so just, if we can clean that up, that would be just
Okay.
beneficial.
Okay.
That's all.
If we're not able to find something that covers it, would painting the fasteners the color of the plate to help them sort of blend and not be as noticeable, would that be acceptable?
I think that you guys have internally have done something like this to mitigate the concern with the bolts, with some kind of piece of brake metal that would be the same as the sign, material that would just smooth and clean that out. You guys have been very successful on doing that in the past for things that has been presented here.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And again, we just wanted to leave options from that standpoint and not necessarily, be so prescriptive that there's constructibility. There's all kinds of things that come into play. So it'd be beneficial to kind of leave it for you guys to solve
Okay,
and
Right,
then bring it back to staff.
okay,
So, okay.
okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Application number 9 is BB-21-11-016. This is 749 High Street. A code violation has been issued for this one for work prior to review and approval. This is to install a blade sign with 18-foot diameter with an exterior lighting fixture. Sign is to be installed 10 foot above the sidewalk. Install vinyl graphics on the window. The left vinyl application would measure 21 inches high by 40.5 inches wide, which is approximately 5.9 square feet. And the right window vinyl application will measure 24 and an 8-inch high by 36 inches wide, which is approximately 6 square feet. And install vinyl on the entry door measuring approximately 16 inches in diameter. Remove the existing signs under the window and remove the vinyl from the rear door. The commissioners, at a business meeting, requested confirmation on the vinyl on the front door. They were unable to tell if it was opaque or transparent. It was noted that they were supportive of transparency of window graphics. They also requested contextual photographs of the neighborhood storefronts on the west side of the street. The building owner did reach out. I thought it was more than yesterday, but I haven't updated that. My apologies. See where the application was in process with the Historic Preservation Office and noted that some portion of the signage that were in violation were going to come down by the end of the business meeting week. Commissioners also requested updated photographs showing what signage had been removed and what was remaining in place. Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the neon window signs are removed and the location of the graphic on the door needs to match where it's installed. Currently, the installation appears lower than in the drawing, so those two just need to match. A basis for recommendation are the short north design guidelines, the general guidelines, as well as the projecting blade sign guidelines.
You want to state your name, sir?
Pete Hatcher,
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Perfect. Do you have anything to add to the presentation, sir?
Not at this time. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Any thoughts? So we had some recommendations by staff. Is it more so the conduit and those relatable items, or is it just kind of trying to understand, the concerns?
So for the graphic,
Yes.
so, okay, hold on, I'm gonna ask you to toggle. So if you look to see where this is located,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you go
Remember that image.
to where the drawing is,
Lower.
so you get at the drawing, and then if you go to the existing photograph, of what's been installed,
Page 3 of 18.
page 3. So this is a little bit lower than what it is. That sign above it. So staff is just asking for the why and the installation to match. So
Gotcha.
I'll let the commission decide. We can discuss with the applicant, you know, if this is okay, if it needs to move, but an updated drawing and is what staff is requesting.
Got it. Okay. And is there, like, in terms of electrical conduits and how power is being offered, is that all consistent to what it was before? Or,
So this is reduced from what it was before because that, the blade sign was a lot larger and it had kind of like 3 of those boxes and a conduit coming across the bottom. So this is reduced from what was previously there.
Yeah, because that was terrible.
okay. So is there any way to remove that piece and actually feed it from the interior?
Inside. Especially because it has that hood, it could be fed from.
Seems like it could be.
You have the before picture or not?
That's what I was trying to understand too.
Before with the C. Kruger's cookies, where it was a significantly larger sign, and it probably had like a spider web or an X, so it had 4 conduits coming from the 2 from the top, 2 from the bottom.
I see now. So that's the existing condition is the storefront elevation, and then the proposed is what the new piece would be. Got it.
That you're seeing there is
Is
actually installed.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So where to start? Sorry, guys. So do we just talk about conduit conditions, from that standpoint, just, you know, sign, obviously, sign location that's now installed versus what was there before. That seems acceptable, the height meets the standards. So can we just talk about the installation itself or how power is offered to the sign? Is there any concerns with the resultant, I know there was a reduction in conduit, but are we okay with the current condition?
No, we're not. That needs to be cleaned up.
I just feel as though if this application came into us first, I think that's one of the things that we
Well,
would ask for.
that's half the problem,
Right.
because, you know, it's sometimes when we have these things where we take things back where they needed to be, because it was an additive process,
That's correct.
even though they have reduced, it's still, that would have been an easy fix for them when they were doing this sign.
Understand? Yep. Yes, sir. Makes sense. Any other thoughts or comments related to the installation? Okay. And then the graphic, and you're gonna have to help me a little bit, Kim, it's just, really, the graphic right now is just the location of it. They just want we need a revised, we need a revised drawing that represents the current location if the team felt
So that,
it's
for
acceptable.
that, the one on the front door, what they're proposing for the graphic for the other 2 windows is a little different than what's up.
Okay,
And I know some of the confusion is what's up, what's going, you know, what's changing.
completely.
So either the recorded documents need to match what's installed, or what's installed needs to match the.
So I'm going to say, again, just for the front door, because I think what's proposed for those 2 windows in terms of vinyl graphics is a little bit better than what's there now, because we technically have a second sign, a little the open sign. So we want that switched out. And I think what they have, go down to the drawings. And it's a little hard to see because they look like they're going to be frosted. Yeah. You can zoom in on those a little bit. You're thinking along the same lines as I am. It's just, you know, getting everything zoomed in is a little different. So as you can see, what's going to be on that left window, it is going to be this design here. And that you scroll over a little bit to the right window is the warm cookies delivered, you know, openly, which there might need to be further discussion if that is appropriate, but. So this is different from what's there I'm just saying what's on that front door, that location needs to be consistent. Because I'll stamp the drawings and they've got to get that permitted and
Right.
we don't want them to circle back.
Understandable. So from a guidelines perspective, in terms of, we do talk about, graphics, and is there any concern with the message that's being provided? Would that be adverse to any of the guidelines, meaning the warm cookies delivered open late?
Give me a second, because now you're putting me on the spot.
Oh, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I wasn't.
It's from the signage guidelines as I once was, so. I know there's,
I guess this is, so I'm a pretty visual person. I have no idea what's going on with this storefront. I don't see anything consistently showing an elevation, what it's gonna be, what it's gonna look like, its parts and pieces. And I understand working through the process. But I'm having a hard time, especially when I'm talking about window graphics, transparency, all this kind of stuff. And what's already happened inside. So I think we need more of a complete packet
okay,
that really shows what's going on. Because once we get into slippery slopes,
That's fair. Yeah.
when we do this stuff, and we've been through the transparency sign stuff before.
Yeah.
So I would ask that that's what we would do.
okay, so you're talking about continuing it for
Yes.
review and having like an elevation with what everything is going to look like.
Correct.
So I am going to ask, since this is already up, do we want to split the blade sign with the graphics, or do we
And I
want?
think we can go ahead with the blade sign, because the electric has
Yeah,
to be fixed up.
although
But
I
those,
Those two, because I know it's been talked about enough, that we've asked you to move that conduit situation to the inside. Would that be possible?
We can look into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, I think, that's gonna be something that commission's talked about, so they're gonna want to approve it with the motion, and I want to make sure you're okay with it, and that we can do it before, we kind of plow ahead with anything.
Right.
So it would appear that the proposed condition photo montage on page 11 is the closest thing to kind of that complete elevation, but there's still some discrepancy on the door sign. So we need all of that. Great to have a version of it without car.
Like the scaled and measured drawing.
Yeah.
And maybe since it does look like there's gonna be some white, like doing whatever that vinyl is going to be, like in another kind of contrasting color or something, so it's not as difficult to read. Or thicker outline. I'm just thinking of making sure we get all the details across and it's very apparent what is going on.
The sign currently in the front window says insomnia cookies, and they want to change that to late cookies delivered or warm cookies delivered.
Yes.
Would that be deemed an advertisement, the warm cookies?
That's what I was trying to understand.
Without reading them off the top of my head, my assumption is that it would be okay if it says insomnia cookies, but it could not say warm cookies delivered late. That's my assumption without pulling it up.
So the sign message should be designed in a simple fashion. It could include business name, logo, function, and or street number or address, and relating artistic treatments. Telephone numbers and websites are appropriate. Logos identifying the primary business may be integrated as an accent within signs. However, logos advertising individual products apart from the primary business are not supported. The use of architectural elements on signage related to the associated business is appropriate. So like a drawing of a coffee cup for a coffee house. Is that the specific one you were thinking?
Exactly.
So we split these into two.
Correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
So the first one would be related to the existing, I should say the blade sign. And understanding the provisions of removing the conduit and panel. So is there a particular motion that you guys want for the blade sign?
So I'm also going to note we should probably include the removing of neon signs that are currently there. just so we have a record that those were there and they've been removed. or if permitted. To have that record of, this was there, this was in the code violation, this has been handled.
Okay, so we'll include that in this motion.
Okay,
We'll include that in the motion.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we still have a form.
Thank you, Jeff. Sorry about that. Thank you.
This time we might have to bribe you with cookies to stay late or something.
All right,
So
so.
won't do it.
So I have a motion for
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, sir.
DB 21-11-016, 749 North High Street. Then first, we split these into two separate applications. The first one dealing with the electrical sign and conduit on the exterior, and then the second portion being the window decals in the front window as well as the front door.
So we're gonna maintain A, which is going to, and then we're going to include possibly the removal of the neon signs as well. But I think that was the reason she wanted to make sure she included that one in A.
Yes,
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm sorry.
Can you repeat that?
That she wanted to make sure that the removal of the neon signs were in the motion for A. So then that way I could check the code violation.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yes, sir.
And so as for part A, it would include the removal of the two neon signs that are currently in place.
And then, and we'll do item B, which is going to be the wall, the graphics, then continuing that, and that will be a new package that will come.
Yes,
Later.
let's go back, but let's, move forward with A
Yep.
first. And then we'll-
I wanted to make sure that his motion was perfect. Okay,
Right, no, I'm with you.
yes, sir. Is there a second?
Clarification, are we looking at A relative to as submitted, or is it submitted with the removal of?
So with the removal of the conduit for the blade sign and with the removal of the two neon signs that were removed.
That is the motion.
Correct.
That is the motion.
Got it. Second.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? All right, go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed for aye, for A, I'm sorry. For A. Item B,
Motion for item B would be a continuance of that submission and for the client to resubmit the actual depictions of the vinyl decals that will remain on the windows.
second? Thank you, Mr. C. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? So item B is to continue, and you'll work with staff on new materials that would support the review of the window graphics accordingly.
And just because city historic preservation office is closed tomorrow, you have a week from today to submit revised materials to get on the December hearing. So that'll be next Wednesday. Because I tried to get everything out by Friday, and I don't think that's going to happen this round because turn around.
And just for clarification, it would be helpful for everyone to understand, okay, what's currently there, what's going to be there afterwards, and then it actually depicts the exact location of those final decals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, sir, for helping us. We appreciate it.
Eric, are you here for 95 West First Avenue or 9?
For 10,
Okay,
comes after 9.
yes. Well, we so I
We
was.
skipped 6. I think it was 6.
My mind was going on to number 11, so.
Please don't skip me.
See what happens when I'm here 2 nights in a row? Like I've already seen you.
Wait, I've been here 2 nights in a row.
All right, so in all seriousness, number 10 is BB-21-11-17, 1187 Hunter Avenue. This is to demolish the existing garage and construct a 1.5-story frame garage measuring approximately 32 feet deep and 30.25 feet wide. The new garage is to have the GAF slate line dimensional shingles in English gray, the Pella Architect Series reserved windows, fiber cement vertical siding with battens, the Spectra black aluminum, the 6-inch style gutters, gooseneck lighting, and the coat-plated steel garage door with the flush panels. We saw this last month, so I've included the minutes from that. The applicant has clarified that there are no required variances and that residential garages only require a 3-foot setback. That was brought up as a concern at the business meeting. And the variation in dimension that was brought up is due to rounding down, which gives them a little wiggle room on the site plan for permitting. Staff recommends the approval of the application with the condition that drawings note where the proposed lighting would be located and paint colors are submitted to staff prior to issuing the certificate. The basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for new construction. Sean, I'll give it to you so we can swear here in.
No problem. Can you state your name, sir?
Carriage Cheryl,
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I certainly do.
Perfect. Is there anything else that you want to add, sir, related to the application?
I don't believe that I have anything else to add.
Open it up to commissioner comments.
I appreciate the revisions. I think feels pretty good, and I agree with the staff comments just to kind of understand where the gooseneck lighting will reside, and also kind of color selection.
I would think we would just have one gooseneck light centered above the garage. I'm not sure why I missed that on the drawing. I apologize.
Any lighting for any of the proposed plan.
What about the man door? Yeah.
We would just have down lights in that cover.
Okay.
So not sconces or anything.
I just only had one comment. It was just a clarification. The gutters show K-style on the cut sheets, but they represent half rounds on the drawings. So I just didn't know. Seems like the preference would be the half rounds, but given the style and the open rake, so I just didn't know.
We're okay with half round.
Okay.
I forgot to swap out
Okay, that's perfect. No problem.
the image on the material sheet.
Okay. Perfect. Can we try to get a motion related to those two amendments by any chance, guys?
Any other comments from you, Mr. Steve?
Yeah. Thank you.
No, I was just reading one of the standards of demolition. I was just curious about. So no, just one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So speaking of the demo, we have to break it into two motions. So we have to motion for the demo and then we have to motion for the approval of the building.
So demo was first and then the proposed new building. I thought the new building was first and then the demo was second.
So I don't think I've,
I'm asking. That'd be great.
Because the standards require a approved replacement.
Prior to demo. Right now, I think that's right.
but it is getting later, so my number here.
Okay.
So let's do it with the approved proposal and then we can vote on it.
Okay. No, thank you. So item A would be related, if Mr. C, I'm sorry, Mr. C, I'll wait. It's okay.
No, we're good. I'm good.
So item A would be approval of the proposed project with the two amendments of the lighting, the gooseneck lighting location above the center above the garage door, and the use of half round as the drawings represent. Half round gutters as the drawings represent. I'm sorry.
So motion for BB 21 017 1187 Hunter Avenue. Item A, submission as proposed with the revisions of providing final location of gooseneck lighting for staff approval, modifying the gutters to be round instead of the K style, and final review of color for staff review as well.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion approved. So item B would be the demolition of the non-contributing garage.
The motion for VB 21-11-017, 1187 Hunter Avenue, item B, demolition of non-conforming structure.
Is there a second?
I have a quick question for you, Ken. Sorry,
Yeah, no, this is
with
good.
respect to the demolition of this structure, and going back to the code 31-16-14, did they submit their reasons to staff as to why they want to demolish the building?
Keep in mind, we're not looking at the building that is.
Yeah, so this is not the building that's there.
Oh.
Carrick is correct.
Correct,
But,
it's the one.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
Well, I recall seeing this.
So this one is a lot different. So there weren't any specifics given, but we did establish this as non-contributing.
The reason would be, the homeowner desires a two-car garage that's bigger than what's there. I mean,
And storage space. I think.
and storage
Yes.
space above, I mean, just a different program than what is there in the existing non-contributing structure.
Okay, I'm with you. The only point I'm raising is that justification or proposal is no different than a house at 1287, Hunter saying it's too small. They would like to demolish their house to build a bigger house. And so that's why I'm just going back to the code to say, what are the reasons or justification or standards for demolition? And so simply stating what you stated is not a sufficient purpose or reason to say this building should be demolished. And so that's why I'm going back to, did someone with respect to this application submit a statement of appropriateness setting forth the intent to demolish such structure or architectural feature together with a written statement that such structure or architectural feature is not historically or architecturally significant or otherwise worthy of preservation, and the reasons the application is seeking to demolish the same. And so I'm not saying I disagree with this, I'm simply saying for purposes of hopefully avoiding down the road
So
that people are just permitted to demolish.
when this structure was exactly built, I haven't been able to determine, based on its materiality and other structures in the area, it's roughly early 70s. Commission has determined it's not contributing. There are other examples of this kind of style along this particular alley, as well as I think throughout the district as well. So when this does become clearly historic, and a contributing feature, we still have other examples of it throughout the district. And this wasn't the original structure that was on the property. We got to look at that 2.5-story, two-car garage a little earlier.
Right. Okay. So I would make a motion that would be contingent on them submitting a statement to staff for staff's blessing. So that we technically are in line with 31-16-14.
I'm okay with that. And then this, are you okay with doing this?
So I'm amending my motion to request a statement of reason for demolition.
I second that motion.
Thank you.
You okay, Kim?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, and thank you for bringing.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's good. This is what we need, so thank you so much. All right, go for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for working with us and allowing that clarification to take place.
No problem at all.
Thank you.
We're all here to do it right.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good evening. You too as well. Thank you. So 11,
Yes, so 910 Dennison. All right, so this is BB-21-11-018. This is to construct a new second and third floor to the existing dental office for a total of a 3-story structure. This would be approximately 34 feet 11 inches in height and be used as a mixed-use building to add a new enclosed stair to access the apartment at the side of the building and add a new vestibule on the side in front. The addition would include the Pella Lifestyle series windows and doors, aluminum clad, painted rich espresso. The existing windows and doors on the first floor would also be replaced. The exterior materials would include the hardy plank board, and siding and trim and cobblestone, with the Davin board 16 inches on center, hardy panels and tempered bark, and the hardy trim and rich espresso at the roof. On the first floor, the existing brick would remain, and the existing stucco would be painted to match the existing brick. Can lights would be added to the porch ceilings. The existing number of parking spaces meets the parking space requirement. Plantings and fencing would be added to the parking lot. Variances would include 3312.28. The parking lot tree, a tree at the interior of the parking lot is needed for 10 parking spaces, so they would need 2 total. 33.12.21D, the parking lot screening for the parking lot to right of way is needed, at least the 4-foot width and 3 feet in height. The 33.12.25 at 19 feet and 5.5 inches of maneuvering. 3312.27 parking setback along Dennison from 25 feet to 19 feet and 5.5 inches. And at 3333.24, the existing rear yard being reduced from 25% to 6.7%. 3333.04, the AR-0 permitted uses to allow 2 apartment units and rezone from the ARO with council variance reclassified from Group B to mixed use of Group B and R2. We saw this last month, so the minutes are included in the staff report. Commissioners at the business meeting requested cut sheets for the doors and bricks. The shingles are to be from the approved shingles list. Shingle included does not appear to be from the list. Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the shingles are chosen from that approved list, and staff supports recommending on variance zoning and has been working with the architect on kind of fine tuning those a little bit. So this was updated this morning because I got some new ones in and eliminated one as well. City Code 3116.11 standards alteration are the basis for recommendation, as well as 3116.12, the standards in construction, and the Victorian Village guidelines on construction.
So, perfect. So I'll get you sweared in, sir. Could you state your name for the record?
Michael Yankelovich, I am the building co-owner.
Perfect. Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Good, perfect. Do you have anything to add to the presentation?
I think it sums it up pretty nicely.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions.
Perfect. Thank you. So Kimberly, there was, out of all the information, you feel that there's nothing pending or nothing that you have concerns with related to the variances and.
No, the variances I think are okay because we went back and forth on elaborating on a couple of them. I do believe since we are rezoning that will need to be recommended separately, so just a note that we'll need to further split them.
So we would need a motion to recommend the variances associated with those.
Yes.
And then, okay.
And then another motion to recommend the change in use. But we can always tackle the variances after we discuss the design.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I didn't leave anything on the table. Okay. All right.
Don't worry, one of us would have probably.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure. Awesome. So any comments on related to the design and the merits of what's in front of us amongst the commission?
From a non-architect perspective, I really like this design when I compare it to, I think, the 4 or 5, at least, iterations that we've seen of this. Also understanding that this is some of the last real estate that we have in the heart of Victorian Village Fair. Also, when you think about the history of this being a filling station and things of that nature. It's a pretty hard design, if you ask me, just from even listening to some of the architect experts over the past several months. Because you have brick row houses across, this is a 1-story brick building. And then on the other 2 corners, you have Victorian sized homes there. So when I think about just the various iterations that we've seen, and this to me seems to marry quite a few of the different things that that we have going on in the neighborhood, not to mention adding a new construction onto an existing structure. So when I just kind of compare this to the 4 or 5 months that we've been through this and kind of listening to some of the architectural experts and their perspectives, I really like this design.
Yeah, I agree. I think the elevation has come a long way. So, very nice solution. But my maybe one comment, and this will kind of get into some of these variances, is early on in the process, I don't know that we ever saw the site plan with dimensions on it, and I think we always kind of assume that obviously it's a tough existing condition of the parking coming all the way up to the sidewalk, which is, in a neighborhood like this, not the ideal scenario, but certainly understand the need for function of parking for the dental office. So we have, on First Avenue, we have 16 feet for parking and a 26-foot drive aisle bay. You could extract that out to an 18-foot parking bay, and you still have 24 feet of drive aisle. City of Columbus will allow as little as 20, I believe, for a two-way drive. So I guess what I'm getting at here is I'm maybe challenging a little bit that, the hardship of ability to create a little bit of a buffer there along the streetscape, along the sidewalk, in terms of fence treatment, something that does, kind of start to give a nod to the, code in terms of that screening. So I just kind of want to open that up for discussion. It gets a little more challenging on the Denison side. There's not a lot of extra room to work with there. I do like being able to remove the extra curb cut to kind of at least continue the tree lawn.
If I say something.
Sure. Yes, we can.
Well, if you look along the First Avenue to the right, I'm not an architect, so I'm not good with corners. And so if you look to the right, there used to be another entrance to the parking area, which was surrendered kind of voluntarily to the city and gave 2 more parking spaces along the street, so there wouldn't be any pass through. With that, I believe, well, obviously fencing is a great idea. It was actually one of my thoughts from the beginning to have some decorative fencing. So that is on the to-do list if available. With that corner being blocked and no longer being a drive-in, so the parking situation is a bit improved because there is potentially extra parking along the First Avenue on the inside the lot if needed. Right now, if you look on the corner of Denison and First, it's actually striped for 2 more parking spaces because there is plenty of space there. Those are not official per plan, but they are de facto functional since the last striping, just for overflow. And then there's 4 more parking in the back alley. So if parking is not an issue at all for the dental office, and then there's always, it's never more than half full.
Great. I appreciate the comments. And yeah, I think I'm glad to hear you're kind of open to that idea of treatment along First. And again, appreciate the removal of that curb cut along First. I think that really helps to kind of maintain that tree lawn. But I would kind of recommend that, if these dimensions are correct, that I think there may be enough room there to.
This tree to the far right of the First Avenue frontage is actually not there yet. It is just, that's where the old drive-in was, which is blocked now. So if that's permanently kind of registered, I guess we can put the tree in. But right now, it's just a strip of asphalt or concrete that is blocked off as, parking dividers.
Understood.
Yeah. And then it was mentioned earlier, those elevations, they are exceeding my earlier expectations. They have evolved very nicely.
So Tim, are you suggesting, like, for instance, the 26-foot depth now that we have from the back of the parking space to the sidewalk? Right now, currently, that's all asphalt.
Yes.
So is there a thought that with the 26 feet, there could be now an introduction of a landscape buffer that would give, is that what we're?
Yes, if these dimensions are correct, I believe that to be true. I think in reality, if you look at the City of Columbus recommendations or code for off-street parking, typically it would be 18 feet for that parking bay, and then a minimum of 20 feet for a two-way drive aisle. So if you take the 18 and 20, subtract that from where we have, I think there's a little bit of room left over, maybe 2 or 3 feet that, again, would be enough room to introduce fencing or just a little bit of a buffer between the sidewalk and the parking.
There is, actually, where the trees are shown along the First and Denison, those existing trees, and that is actually green lawn area. So, fencing could easily go in there along.
But I'm
along
talking
the sidewalk.
specifically between the sidewalk and where the parking.
Oh,
starts.
yes, absolutely, there's.
Because that way you'd be within the property line and not in the right of way.
Yeah. Yes, it was discussed many times, just for the sake of sort of definition, property definition.
Yeah.
It has come up before.
And because that's asphalt now, would you anticipate or envision a wrought iron fence there with some type of,
Yeah, I think it could be limited space still, and so I think to get meaningful landscape in there is gonna be challenging, but there probably is enough room for, the wrought iron fence or something that just gives that dimension, gives a nod to the streetscape through that area. And so what we were talking about.
Before we move forward, let me just make sure.
Yes. Yep.
So that way we can have that dialogue, and from that standpoint, so could you state your name for the record? Thank you, Heidi. You can raise your hand, and do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Perfect. There we go.
Yes.
So,
To summarize, we were very complimentary of the elevation. We're kind of nitpicking the plan just a little bit, just in terms of seeing dimensions now on the site plan. And what I'm picking up on is the 16 feet, and 26 feet that you think of city code of 18-foot, typically an 18-foot parking bay, and then you can go as minimum as a 20-foot drive aisle. Obviously, that's not completely ideal, but we recognize we're dealing with a challenged tight space here. I think there is enough potentially left over there that you could do some treatment between the sidewalk and the start of the parking. It might not be much, but I think there's enough to get in a fence at least along First that I think will go a long way to kind of addressing, it's within reason, kind of that streetscape appearance.
But I know that Sarah had sent this over to the site plan that had some shrubs on it. I'm trying to remember, I know we were looking at it. before, yeah. And there's kind of a little, here, I'm gonna hand this out to the commission. Just we went back and forth with the variances, and I know I was trying to make sure I got those variances.
Yeah, okay.
And that would eliminate the need for that screenage variance, right?
Well, at least along first, I don't think they have the room to achieve it along Denison. But is there any? No, there is here though, and that's only 20.
So these shrubs are planted in the ground, right?
Yes. So that, between there and there, you would remove the pavement.
Yeah.
By plan, but
So you probably could do the same thing here, or at least have.
might
Oh,
be able to
I guess-
turn- might be able to turn a portion of the corner. Circulation, because you see this zone that's kind of striped out, I mean, that's really where your circulation is not coming from. So you could make an argument that you can turn the corner or portion.
For uniformity.
You gonna take a bulge to the corner or do something, like, I mean, landscape wise, you do something here, it might actually is a terminus
Right.
that addresses the corner, which I think is really about
Yeah, yeah.
that, you know, that piece too.
I think that'd be great to be able to get just a little bit.
So with this unaddressed area here, would it,
You're not gonna room for the plantain, you can.
I wonder whether you could there have a wrought iron fence, or leave it open, I mean, that's an easy deal, but
It's gonna be,
This is helpful.
Yes.
it's gonna be. It could, yes.
I also don't know what that looks like from a uniformity standpoint. If you enter here, there's nothing, then you have a fence, then you have shrubs, and just shrubs all the way. Yeah, you just do,
Just
yeah.
landscaping, and so you only do that as far as you can, and I think you're right, that's really.
Yeah, here, I like that idea, of bringing this high
Round,
further.
round that off, do something.
There's something just there, terminates it, you know, what I mean, from that perspective.
Yep.
But then that would give it that variance, you know, from that perspective.
Well,
And
does
that's
it
something
completely get?
I don't know.
Because,
I don't know.
because you don't.
Oh, you don't fully,
Oh, I
that's
see.
fully screening
So I
that.
think you still have, but at least at this point, you're showing.
That's kind of, you're different that you would try.
Yes.
Yeah,
I understand.
yeah, I think it's helpful then to see cars parked in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to say for the record, I don't know the building and zoning code nearly as well as the dark preservation code, so. You know, some of it might need to be further discussed.
That's really helpful, thank you. And that's exactly what we were kind of seeing and recommending.
So yeah, we couldn't do anything on the Denison Avenue side just because that depth isn't
Right.
enough.
Well, and that's the piece that we talked about, and we totally understand that just given that dimension and circulation, that's challenging, and, you know, to do something different there before a small portion doesn't make sense. What we do think you could consider is the corner piece there, that as you think of traffic coming around, you know, are you able to extend that treatment, you know, to some point here?
We can if it's low. Zoning won't let us go high because they said too, we needed a parking lot island tree. And so we proposed that corner and they said no, because it stops visibility for traffic.
So if you're maintaining that low.
We do like a low shrub, we can
Is that what you're planning? In that plan, those are
just like.
shrubs, right? No fence, just low shrubs, just landscape. So it would just be an opportunity at the corner, just to bulge the corner, just to bulge a little bit to create kind of a terminus to the landscape, you know, bed. And I think that's, which would be very inclined to the building architecture of addressing the corner, you know what I mean, from that perspective.
Yeah. And I don't think that hinders the parking lot at all.
Not at all, not at all, not at all. Very helpful. Awesome, awesome feedback. Any other items, Tim or Mr. Sebo?
I have no additional comments, I like it.
Okay,
I do have one note. The windows proposed are on the approved list.
they're not.
Lifestyle are like 2019. Window by, I think it's Pella, yes.
So it's,
I
a
know I
window.
looked at it, but I'll let you
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah, so the lifestyle window was launched in 2019, so it's a newer window. But I thought that it looked more like a historic window because it has clean lines and a small profile, unlike the highly detailed architectural line windows. So That's what I had proposed and hoping, knowing that it was Pella and it's still a wood clad window, similar to the Architect Series windows, but it's just a lower profile, like really clean lines.
So that makes sense. I was gonna just suggest something, just to see if this, obviously you've been working with us, so we completely appreciate it. Would it be beneficial? Because I think she's saying the right things in terms of the profile, that's concerned, the sight line related to that. Could there be a comparable that we do as a subcommittee regarding the windows or something like that, just to be able to have
Just to, take a closer look at it to make sure it's okay.
That's correct.
What's been approved, because since it's a 2019, it isn't newer.
It's a newer product.
I'm not as familiar with, but we could do a subcommittee to evaluate if it's, still an appropriate window or if we might need to go with something.
And the one thing with it is it does have on the inside that jam liner that's oftentimes white, or I know the Architecture Series, it matches
Right.
whatever color it is. The one, like their standard on that window is a brown, a dark color.
Okay.
So because we are proposing to use the brown color, which is like a dark bronze,
Yeah.
it'll match that perfectly and you won't even notice it.
Okay. We just, I think now you have a good feel for why some of that has been vetted, and so that's why we rely on that Windows list, approved Windows list. So being able to have that product information or cross section to be able to compare, and that would be great. And what you would do is compare it to what is on the approved list, so that way we can see apples to apples. So if you can bring or send us both, that would be that would be very helpful. Is that?
So I'm going to bring up, because typically when other projects suggest a window that's not on the approved windows list, we do ask for the physical sample.
Okay.
Is that something we need to see here, or are we okay with the product sheets? Or is that going to need to be determined down the line? We might just want to err on the side of caution. I know, lots of questions.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, I think they're great questions, and well,
No, I need that.
I think just given the newness of the window being at 2019, and just given the number of windows that we will have at this corner, I would think it would be prudent for us to view an actual sample of the window. Just given that, unless there's another building somewhere that we haven't seen that does have them. Yeah, I didn't think so. Because my concern is this building on the corner will be the example. I hope it turns out well and we are fine with it, but that's the first building they'll point to say, you guys approved that one, and those are not on the approved list. Or they can, to take words out of what Jeffrey would probably say, or they can look hideous, But I think you've been here enough and as Mr. Conyers has alluded to, I personally think we probably would want to see a sample.
That doesn't seem too challenging from that perspective now. Does that seem?
Question, are photos okay? Or do you guys actually want to see it in person? Because we are moving, our next business meeting is the day before Thanksgiving. So we've got some availability issues. So, and I'm not sure, if we could set up viewing for everybody, because I know my days in the office are limited, and I'm sure everybody's got projects that you all have at your job that keep you busy.
So just from a timing perspective, timing perspective, windows are not something that you're purchasing tomorrow. And I'm asking. So in reality, is this going to delay, is this process of vetting this material and vetting this one product and the selection of it, is that going to delay any ability of being able to move the project forward?
Just the zoning approvals, because we can't get approval through zoning until we have approval through this commission.
But we could still offer, and I'm asking, can we still offer an approval with this conditional piece just out there that we haven't determined because a product selection is being determined?
So I do need to stamp the drawings, and typically the drawings do know what windows are being used. So I know we have some history in a number of historic districts that from the approved windows list has been stated and we've run into instances that approved windows have not been installed in those locations where things have been, noted. And I know that, that was previous applicants and that was not these applicants. So I just want us to tread carefully.
I'm going to suggest an alternative. The suggestion would be that the motion is utilizing a window from the approved windows list. And then we leave it up to you guys to basically determine the product that you want and then come back to us with an alternate product. And we would be able to look at that alternate product.
Okay, so you're saying you're going to approve it with the, like, you're going to approve it from the approved windows list with the understanding they'll come back with the light style window, like the next meeting that.
For us to take a look at and review and work through with staff. It's, for instance, if a product that's on the approved windows list doesn't exist anymore, right? Then all of a sudden when they go to build, they have to come back. Or if materiality, something changes and they need to change something,
Right.
they would in theory come back to this commission and we would address that one
My
item.
question was there a reason that you did not use a window off of the approved windows list? Was it just because you thought this would look better, or?
I think it looks better, just because it's cleaner. With the architectural series line, there's a lot of, there's a lot of detail in it. It's just
Right.
not it doesn't have the clean lines that this window has.
But regardless, the window will be the same size.
Oh, yeah.
If it doesn't-
None of the
right,
windows-
yeah, just making sure that, hey, one vendor doesn't make it
Yeah.
and it's
So-
bigger.
So we're fine with just changing it currently to a window off the approved list, and yeah, we can get some information to you
Yeah.
and see what you think of this window. And
Would that, something like that, is that okay?
Yes,
I like
so are okay with it. I think it's kind of a long way around, but as I said,
Yeah.
it's okay with it.
But I understand you need to move forward from that perspective, but at the same time, what's interesting about, this process, I think this has been a collaborative process from that perspective, so completely appreciate it. Is we don't want to suggest something that could be better or beneficial to the project, even from that perspective. So we want you to bring that back and be able to have that evaluation because it may benefit us long-term and specifically it may benefit the project.
Right.
So we don't want to shortcome that. So our hope is that you do come back with that information, but you're able to move forward in the interim. Is that, okay, that was the goal.
and it seems to be a great window too, so maybe we want something that you
Completely.
consider adding to the list.
Exactly.
Completely.
Okay, so I am going to know if we add it to the list, we have to go through all of the commissions.
Understand.
Get 2 points.
So never mind, let's scratch that.
Understandable. But if there's a precedent there related to, at least we reviewed it, okay, perfect, awesome.
So from a practical standpoint, if we were to make a motion based upon a window from the approved window list, and then they could submit several pictures where we could see exactly what this window looks like. It's not an actual physical sample, and then that would just come back to the
Yes,
commission
you
for,
could approve,
that would come back to the commission.
you approve it from the approved windows list, and they would, put in a new application, let's just say next month
Right.
as an example,
It's just in the-
for the lifestyle windows. So we review that kind of like as a change
Exactly.
to consider.
Okay. I was just trying to make sure we're all on the same page from a practical standpoint, that they would understand. They simply would be submitting that window for approval. If this were to pass. Okay, we're all on the same page.
Perfect, thank you. All right, any additional discussion? So, if not, a motion to approve, given those amendments to the window. I think that was the whole, no, I shouldn't say that. We gotta recommend the
Well,
variance.
you've got to break it, and
Into
so,
two.
Yes,
well, you've got to break it into multiple things. So we have to approve the project. We have
okay,
to recommend variances, and then we have to recommend the change in use.
okay, so project is first.
So
I have one last question. The shingles were not on the approved shingle list, I believe.
I believe that was correct.
Think it right, yeah, that sounded familiar, that estate, right? Sounds familiar.
I was gonna say, I think that was corrected. I think that was one of those, like, we caught it and updated it.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's my last question.
You'll have to pardon my confusion because somebody else has incorrect windows here. We had a couple people, I helped Italian last night and they had a couple. So it's been a lot of like incorrect shingles and they're all starting to blur together.
So we need a motion to split this into two separate votes, and one will be on the design and one will be on the variances.
So you don't need to motion for it. You can
Sure.
just kind of
Yeah,
break it up and go A and then B and C.
and C. So I'm gonna do the first one is, A is related to design. So, the only question that I have for clarity on the design is the site plan that's being proposed, is that a design-related item in terms of landscaping adjustment?
So, yes, so that's the site plan as submitted at the hearing, which is the one here. I'm going to check my emails as well
Yeah.
in case I forgot to swap it out, which unfortunately occasionally happens.
Okay. That's in the design portion.
Yes,
Okay, I just want to be, it's building and site planning and landscape is in the design portion.
yes.
It's going to assist a little bit of the variances, but it's really in the design portion. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that we get all the elements to make sure.
You can keep this copy just to make sure that you can reference them when you're looking through your emails.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if I needed it back.
No, no.
All right, so we have a motion for item A related to the design of the building and the site landscaping, improvements that were proposed.
So motion for VV 21 11 018 910 Dennison Avenue. Item A is for design as submitted with the exception of utilizing window off of the approved list and to provide final copy of landscape plan. And I would recommend that, including species of shrub to be used for staff approval prior to installation.
And would you be agreeable to amending that so that to add, they may submit? Or no, Kimber, would they just bring a separate application for the windows? Okay,
Yes.
so we can, okay, I second that motion.
All right, any further discussion? Thank you guys for talking that through. The motion is, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. So that was design and landscape.
Yes.
Right.
All right, so item B would be the recommendation of, I'm going to say, the change in use first.
Okay, get that one out of the
Yeah.
way.
So we just need a motion for recommending the proposed change in use.
So motion for VV 21 11 018 910 Dennison Avenue. This is item B for rezone to, for recommendation of rezone to AR-O and reclassification from Group B to mixed use of Group B and R-2.
I second that.
Oh, perfect. I was just going to ask, is there a second?
Second.
Awesome. And I'm presuming no discussion. Go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Recommended. So that is for the change in use. Okay. Item C, which are the variances,
Yes, or the remaining.
and I'm not going to read them all off. Is that
That's for sake of time, I will allow.
And we can lump them all together.
Yes,
Right.
I know what you're
Yep.
referencing, because that's everything but the bottom two bullets that
Yep.
haven't been read.
So motion for VV 21 11 018 910 Dennison Avenue. This is item C for the variances as provided with application.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Variances are recommended as well. That was all three items. That's
Yes,
consistent.
that's all three items, so we have covered everything. And thank you guys for being here, for all of your help. I know it's been a long process.
Very good.
Congratulations.
Awesome. And Heidi, thank you so much in
Yeah.
terms of that process and working through it. I mean, this is handsome. It's so cool. So just, thank you working through that. We truly appreciate the patience.
Yeah.
So
Thank you so much for your help.
Likewise.
I appreciate it.
likewise, thank you. All right, so we had to come back to item 6. I think that was the last one that was,
Thank you so much.
and it doesn't look like item 6.
I was gonna say, there was one gentleman in the audience, I wasn't sure if he knows the application or not, so, I'm going to suggest we continue it
Okay,
because our applicant isn't here and
okay,
I didn't know about them not being in attendance, so I can't speak for them.
okay, got it.
We need a motion.
Motion to continue, item number 6. I can state it if you want me to.
Got it.
Okay.
So that was actually the first, okay.
So this is number 6, which is BV-21-11-013. This is 995 West First Avenue.
So motion for BB-21-11-013, 95 West First Avenue for continuance.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Continue.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, quick update on the holiday meetings as we're coming into Thanksgiving and Christmas, other holiday seasons. I will be out of town for the December business meeting, so that 11/24 meeting. My coworker Connie Torbeck will be staffing, so you will have her in person. Connie staffs HRC and the Brewery District. She is senior to me, so you guys are going to be in very good hands, those of you that are here, in terms of walking through. And I'll still be coordinating everything and kind of keeping you guys in the loop and her in the loop. And I will probably also be watching in, so she doesn't have to take notes,
Nothing.
because I will be up in Cleveland area, so I'll just, she'll make sure you guys behave for Con.
We're track.
But I'll be like, just watching. And Kevin said he should be here for that meeting. I'm hoping no other family emergencies pop up, which was why he couldn't be tonight.
Okay, understand.
And then I have to start telling you guys, like, with the reward cookies, that you're all here, give a treat bag, but all jokingness aside, thank you guys for staying. It helps me know, somebody does have to leave early in terms of form, so. But I think that by now we can all kind of assume that Jeffrey is going to leave at 6 unless he tells us.
Yeah.
otherwise.
Makes sense.
That's all I have, and unless we have anything else to discuss, I'm going to suggest a motion.
I checked that Robert's rule, so
Okay.
a tie would be a defeat because it requires a majority to pass a motion
Okay,
or vote.
thank you. That caught me completely unaware because
I was thinking for a minute, like, oh, what is this? Yeah.
it was like, wait, what? There's 2 and 2, like this is.
So if Kevin were here, then he
Yeah,
would have
exactly. Well, motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Awesome. Adjourn. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and we are almost officially up